And greetings, everyone from all over the world. Welcome to our Hollow Earth Discovered Call, as well as Being Inspired with Q Call. And today is all about being inspired with Q. So before we begin, I'd love to be able to introduce Don Newsom, who is our director host for BBS Radio. And because most of you already have seen that there is on the website itself, information about how you can become a member of this call. So Don, if you're there, hopefully you can hear me. You're on the air.
Well, thank you very much. And I'd like to say to your audience, Happy New Year. Thank you for spending it here with Hollow Earth Discovered and, of course, BBS Radio TV. Well, we appreciate you, and I know that Jane and Billie and Q do too. And that's kind of the reason we put together this little subscription system. It's actually a members subscription system. And it's something that allows you to show your support for Q and Billie and what they're doing. And it, of course, it's needed and necessary because these things aren't cheap. It's not cheap to do a broadcast. And all the support you can give is greatly appreciated. And if you go to bbsradio.com/ Hollow Earth Discovered, one word, bbsradio.com / Hollow Earth Discovered, you can click on, subscribe link, and there'll be a multiple of plans. And again, folks, the programming's free. The programming's free. Anybody can access it. So just consider this more of a donation system, and it allows you then to become a member of the program, and it shows, your support for the program and what they're trying to do and accomplish, which again is greatly appreciated. Those plans range from $2.99 all the way up to $49.99 a month. It doesn't matter which one you choose. You could choose $9.99 a month, $19.99 a month, $49.99 a month, or $2.99 a month. But whatever you can afford, that's something we appreciate if you would subscribe to. You can cancel it at any time, or you can give us a call at 888-710-8061. That's toll free here in the U.S. Or you can email us anytime, and we can always change that subscription for you or cancel it for you. But, it is pretty self-explanatory. You should be able to do it yourself. If you encounter any problems, we're always here for you. But again, we do appreciate your support. I know that Billie, Jane, and Q could definitely use your support because, again, it's not cheap. So, folks, it's really, it's really something we appreciate. Jane, we love you. We love Billie, and Q, you're about as awesome as they come.
I think so. Over the top with Q. And Zora too. So thank you so much for that explanation. We certainly do appreciate that. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with our call. Just to remind everyone, it's a beautiful January 7th, 2023. This is our new Earth year starting. So thank you for being here. Now, before I start, I'd like to give everyone just a little bit of an understanding of who Q is and a little bit about the background before we start on our subject today being PT, post-traumatic stress disorder with Q. So for those of you that really don't understand and know about Q, just a quick review. So he is the one that was here with us 2,000 years ago as Yeshua or as Jesus, and now he is here again. And the reason why he is here again is because this is our time. And that's why all of us that probably are listening to this call have decided to be here at this time to help in the evolution and transformation of humanity and of our planet into the higher densities as well. And we're talking about higher frequencies, vibrations, and consciousness. So that is the plan. And we're so extremely privileged that Q, or Source, as many of us know him to be now, that he is here with us in this existence. So a little bit about Q. He was born as a child here. And as a child, he was already let's just say being trained in regards to having had his associations already with the other higher realms, even as a child. And of course, during even that time, he started his training already because of the veil that we had, where the dark ancestors that we have with the Anunnakis took over and kind of laid a veil over all of humanity, all of our planet, so that we are all basically in 2D, basically in 3D. So he grew up, as trained as a super soldier. So, and so much more in that particular story. But through that life, he has experienced much torture, much abuse, much suffering, and manipulation coming from the dark. And so it's so appropriate that he would be here at this time to have experienced all of that. So he understands, probably even more than we do, about what it feels in regards to the pain and the suffering that people that have post-traumatic stress syndrome have had or are still experiencing. So, so with that being said, I will go ahead and bring our beloved Q Source to come on our platform and begin our call for everyone with a song, hopefully.
Sounds like a real light subject today.
Oh, real light. Thank you so much for this call. All right.
Always trying to fit in a light joke, right? Well, I recognize that a lot of us get on the radio, the airways, and we do our best to transfer information. But my agenda today is to give you something that you can actually use day in and day out. I for one, I think we're all tired of being told, and let's show. Let's get some tools we can actually use, so to speak. And so I have a couple words to support that. How many times do you hear it? It goes on all day long. Everyone knows everything, and no one's ever wrong. Until later. Who can you believe? It's hard to play it safe. But apart from a few good friends, we don't have anything on faith. Until later. Show me, don't tell me. You figured out the score. I've heard it all before. I don't care what you say. Show me, don't tell me. You can twist perceptions. Reality won't budge. You can raise objections. I'll be the judge and the jury. I'll give it due reflection, watching from the fence. Give the jury direction based on the evidence. I, the jury. Hey, order in the court. Let's try to keep it short. Show me, don't tell me. Enough of your demands. Witness, take the stand. Show me, don't tell me. Hey, order in the court. Let's try to keep it short. I don't care what you say. Show me, don't tell me. Let's see Exhibit A. And again, that is from the lovely band Rush, Neil Peart, Alex Lifeson, Geddy Lee. And that's what I'd like to work on today. If you're game, Miss Jane.
We are. Absolutely, we are. We're right there with you. So tell us, if you will, well, how about we do this? I'd like to kind of give a short synopsis, really, of the understanding of what from our understanding in this realm of what post-traumatic stress syndrome is how it is defined. Since I'm a nurse and have worked in psychiatry for many years, I have had the experience of working with families and those especially that have gone through the wars, like especially at that time it was all about Vietnam. And now today we have, all of the Middle East wars that have been going on, and even more so. And we have some present wars already still going on. So some of the things for people to kind of maybe refresh their memories about is that, in the way back then when they talked about post-traumatic stress disorders, they call us shell shock, especially for those who are in war, who are not just experiencing it, but really always witnessing it on a regular basis, especially if they were in the war zone. So others as well, when we're talking about the people that are suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome, we're really still talking about people who in this life, whether you're, children or partners or individuals who've had domestic violence, who've had abuse, people have had traumatic experiences, serious experiences with collisions, car crashes, etc. So it just kind of goes on. Anything that is extremely intense in the suffering and the mental torture, physical torture, emotional torture, we can probably call that post-traumatic syndrome. So again, the recovery for this, as I have experienced, it's more than, a few days. It's not overnight. And it usually takes from months to years and sometimes ongoing even after that. And they have needed much of our love and our comfort, and to be the listener and the one to be able to help them move forward, because there is light at the end of the tunnel, as, Q always alludes to the light, the the bright star, however way we want us to be able to see it. But the symptoms are really can be very, very difficult for many people, from nightmares to, the going back to the past all the time, recovering those memories, things that they see, noises that they hear, becoming very, very sensitive to noises, and being very sensitive to being with people, isolation, withdrawal, and then eventually anxiety as well, and then having to take medications to help them on their way. But today's a new day, and we know that Q is here too. I'd like for you, Q, if you will, tell us a little bit more about how that has affected you in the past, and how can we go forward with all of this? Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Jane. And it's just an incredible honor to get to speak with you and BBS Radio. I just know that great care is taken when we do these communications, and I know you know that I know. Essentially, when we started collaborating about this, Jane, and with Don, is I recognized that the one-on-one calls, my experiences with each individual from the past and currently that I come in touch with, and the one-on-one calls has culminated the information we're going to generate today. And that is, there is a common, for the thousands and thousands and thousands of people I've talked to over the years, just one-on-one, which will always be private between them and myself. We have a common theme. And the first one, and that's my goal with this subscription, is to get everybody, and I mean everybody on the planet, enrolled, so that we can get all the issues out, so we can actually do something with them. And so I, like many, I'm a little tired of listening to blog whatever, and we don't have any solutions. And we can run around in circles all day long, point the finger all day long, but at the end of the day, you're still going to live with yourself. And so that is my goal today and going forward, that through the culmination of all our correspondence, we can now centralize it, collaborate with it, direct it, mold it however we want. And so that is one of many common themes I'm seeing, is we're all thirsty to collaborate. And so this is the start, at least for me, on how we might be able to do it. And I'm asking, not telling. And certainly the topic at hand is PTSD. And my passion, of course, is my experiences here in this lifetime. And when Jane says learning, she's correct, because you can know everything in the universe. And by the way, you all do. But you don't really know what it's like until you actually participate in the knowledge that you already have. So just because you know what a human's like doesn't mean you know what it's actually like until you are a human, as an example. So don't be surprised that source or we all need to find our way, depending on what universe you're in, what planet you're in, what type of being you're participating as. Many, many, many factors go into that. So I'll ask for your help, Jane, that the topic of PTSD is so prevalent that I am happy to say, and unhappy to say, for the ease of communication, that everybody on the planet has some form of PTSD, because you're used to being in a vessel that has little or no limitations. All that is, all there ever be. So from the day you're born, you can assume that the epigenetic recording system that you have, called the human body, is an absolute shock from the first breath of air. So this is the help I want from you, Jane, is what direction do we start with from my statement, and or what would be the most interesting? Do we relay it to all the people I've talked to in the common theme? Or would you suggest we start at a particular subject?
Well, why don't we go ahead and start with the common theme that you have had with the conversations that you have had with people already on the one-to-ones. That would be a really good start.
Okay, very good. One of the common customers I have, for lack of a better term, collaborators, dear friends. We're getting a lot of legacy secret soldiers. I use that instead of the other terms. You have super soldier, I think, is what most people use. And the reason I start there is because most secret soldiers were used for a very wide array of tasks, including myself. So when we talk about the secret space program, that individual may have to be a soldier, may have to know how to navigate interdimensionally and multidimensionally, and so forth. And so those individuals who come to me are getting what might be called a bleed through of memories. So the way they did the time regression and progression on all of us is kind of layered. I would say Stuart Spurlow probably has the best. I know I say his name a lot, but as an analogy of your brain is like a 13 by 13 by 13 cube, and so you can put in memories there, and you can take away memories. You can do all sorts of things in overlaying your experience with other experiences. You can put in traumas. You can do all sorts of things. Well, what the bad guys didn't count on is as we grow in our volume of light we use in physicality, that goes away more and more and more. And so fortunately and unfortunately, the Mayans did have it right. There is a time when the point of no return and the light wins the genetic manipulation war. And so that's what you're seeing now. You want to call it the age of Aquarius, enlightenment, whatever you want. We've run the course, and that's why you're seeing disclosure of Project Looking Glass and things of that nature. We've outrun the race, and we're at the point of no return because you can't predict what we're going to do now, because we have all that is, all that ever will be, and that is everything. And so certainly you've probably read somewhere, we have it all. Well, we do. We do have it all, as you've heard Billie and Zorea say, you're gods and goddesses, because you do come directly from source, and there's no disconnection when you leave this body. You're immediately in source as you choose, and most people choose to go to their primary planet as they come into the universe, but there's no discrepancy from unlimited, endless knowledge and when you leave this body. So start from there, and it gets a little easier. There's not one thing you don't know. So as we keep growing out of the restrictions of DNA and the NATO, what you're finding is our natural truths are coming through to us. If you want to call it consciousness, very limited word, but you're able to now know information if you live in your center, in your core, continuously. So discernment is one compartment of that, as an example. This doesn't feel right. I have this gut feeling. Try and sneak up on a woman with a baby, as an example. So our comprehensive knowledge center is right in the middle of all of our bodies, and it's growing very fast, and it's getting easier to use. But certainly, I wanted to put that into preface as we talk about PTSD and why it works so well against us. Please, Jane, steer me a little bit, if you don't mind.
No, of course not. That's beautiful. So going back again to the secret soldiers. So tell us how, because it's such an extreme event for them that they've had to go through. Tell us kind of just in general over the past few years, how they have been experiencing it, and how have they come back to are they all back to, being able to live with society, no more post memories? I mean, tell us the evolution of that for the PTSD for the secret soldiers, if you will.
Right. So the industrial military complex, in coordination with several different types of aliens, taught the transition of spirit and physicality. So that includes bilocation, time travel, let's say progression of physicality, transfer of spirit. So you can take your light and put it in an identical body, as an example. Many, many technologies related to how light comes into physicality. It's a very, very long story. But essentially, we were groomed, all of us in the modern education system and the modern medical system. We were all groomed. That, when I say all, I mean every one of you listening. You were groomed for special capabilities, in a way that it looked like you were just going to school or you just had a doctor's appointment. They're very good at this. Several three-letter agencies were involved in it. I'll speak for America for the ease of conversation. Several education systems, several medical facilities, et cetera, and of course the military. As an example, both of the elementary schools I went to closed or sold to a private school. So they cover their tracks pretty good. In any event, what they're grooming us for is the volume of light you use versus the genetic restrictions of the light coming through and acknowledged through the head. This is a very short version. So what I'm doing my best to explain is, how much thinking do you do in your creative stance in life versus your brain versus your heart? So as an example, the military wants super smart people in very key places. In hyperspace travel, they don't want you using your brain at all. And yet you have to have intellect to be able to do a lot of things. But the freer you are with your light, the more capable you are for hyperspace travel, interdimensional and multidimensional travel. So as an example, teaching a super smart guy with a PhD how to drive a vessel that has multidimensional capability is almost impossible because they don't know how to work with their heart in coordination with imagination and or what's called creativity. So as we get groomed and put into these programs, and here to answer your question, where the PTSD is occurring for at least most of the callers that call me, is they're getting those memories back of being scavenged out of school medical situations. A lot of adopted people have weird ailments. Almost all of us have microchips or biological implants, brainwashing, hypnotization, myriad of things depending on who you are. Well, those backfilled memories are getting wiped now because source is too powerful. And so the bad guys, aliens, they missed their guesstimate on when the ascension cycle was going to be, and that was right at 2012, and they know it. And so now you're seeing the attention on a lot of us in our societies are combating that. And again, this is an alien agenda for a lot of different reasons. But for the most part, what I'm seeing, thousands and thousands of calls, I'm seeing not only the relationship with the event of being a secret soldier, their relationships in their immediate family and their children, because we are designed to be an epigenetic sponge. We remember everything from the point of your ancestor. So in this case, every single human being on the planet has the memories of their ancestors from 2,000 years ago, the last ascension cycle. And so, like it or not, karma is designed to keep you on a perpetual revolving door of history. Notice there's a very sexy term, history repeats itself. Well, that's because your NATO and your historian in you, epigenetics, is reliving all the same stories all over again. And it's a comfy shoe. It's pattern recognition. Everything that I'm seeing for the last 2,000 years happened 2,000 years prior. So most of us have missed the ascension cycle, of course, adding to the PTSD. And what I mean by missed the ascension cycle, I mean that from 2,000 years ago. So most lives on planets, you usually only have one or two lives, and then you move and do something else. And by the way, they're much longer lives than here. Here, you aren't leaving, you're getting recycled. And so that has a lot to do with the PTSD in relationship to the secret soldier programs, secret space program, whichever you like, and the breeder program. I don't want to forget that there is a tremendous breeding program here with. And again, I'm offering information today. You can dismiss it or hold on to it. But again, parents, if you're listening to me, I may change the paradigm for some of your children. So please take great care when you turn me on, because I don't have a choice in giving you this information. It's my real job. But in any event, that's the short version. PTSD is getting more prevalent now in all my calls because everyone's getting their true knowledge back and or their memories back. Hope that answers the question, Jay.
Oh, that's beautiful. And how are they coping presently? If they're getting more of their light back, are they still needing some more? Well, I don't know what other therapy, whether it's light therapy, whether it's meditation, whether it's alternative medicine. What are they normally now needing being a, secret soldier, or those that are super smart? I mean, or are they physically, mentally, emotionally, are they pretty balanced at this point, would you say?
Yeah, and so it's a mixed bag, but if you can kind of measure, I don't know how many people know who Cody Snodgrass is, but so that's an example of secret soldiers who come out of three-letter agencies who used to, have to, let's say, corral bad guys that were, collaborating against the United States government. I'll let you do your own homework, but he's got it right in that you've got to find the source of where you come from, and that is your spirit. And so most of the people I'm coming across, and I believe I can speak for Cody too. It's been many years since I've talked to him, but through Max Steele. But basically, there's no one to talk to. And that adds to the layer of PTSD. So obviously, it's comforting for me to have people call up and go, and I don't lead them whatsoever because I have to read them comprehensively so I can be of help. But they know who I am, and so that is getting to be a little more nurturing. That we have a little club that we don't want to be in, but at least we do have somebody we can talk to that understands. So as an example, a CIA operative, he doesn't have anyone to talk to. A trauma nurse doesn't have anyone to talk to about what they saw in urgent care and so forth. Doctors, firemen, police officers, it doesn't matter. We all have a very similar process for holding our epigenetic traumas. In any event, most of the space soldiers and secret soldiers, breeder program individuals, they all are getting their memories back in a way that is confusing and very traumatic. Again, reinstalling the trauma because a lot of it was a safety mechanism for yourself internally, and a pre-installed program to wipe your memory and or mask it. And so that's why you see a lot of these PTSDs masking the information they have, because it's unbelievably, it's just horrific. And so you see people sitting in their backyard drinking beer or whatever they need to do because they want to get the visions out of them. And so that's what I'm seeing as if I was to standardize, we're all getting our memories back and we're going, okay, now what do I do with it? Hope that answered your question.
All right. Well, so you have a little bit of a club there, so you can feel like you don't feel so isolated. You have other people that you could speak with and feel like that they're at least someone who understands what we've all been through together, even though it's been individual. So what is the process then of healing? And let's just talk a little bit more about, the secret soldiers. So the healing process is one, you have this get together with these individuals. And so what do you do, Q? Inform, what have you done for yourself to be able to bring you back to your core as who you truly are, so you can, as you already are, moving fast forward into who you are today, doing all these enormous, amazing works that you are doing.
Thank you, Jane. Well, certainly I have received a lot of help prior to coming into this physicality, and just know great care, organizational alignment is very vast. Whether it's the Q posts or the information that we transfer into your reality over and over again, and you're seeing which ones stick and which ones don't. But essentially, I started reviewing how I got through my traumas, arguably, and if I'm presumably free of the confines of the overlays, the implants, then that means everybody else can do it too. And if I'm just a light being who's not here full time and you all are, we can use that because I can see from the outside looking in. And what I've realized is that our emotions, the genetic manipulation to this version of humans, they used emotions they use the brain as the primary tool to mask the unbelievable capability, undescribable capability of spirit, source, which is in every one of us right now. So, as an example, the more you use your light body for your decision-making process, the more knowledge you actually get, because that's where all the knowledge in the universe is. So, if someone asked me if I should read that book or not, I'd say don't read any books. Just work on pulling all the knowledge from the universe through your heart. So the emotional, what I've narrowed this down to with tremendous amount of help is that our emotional experience through the brain is being recorded not only in our physical body, of course, that is the brain too, but it's being sustained in our memory bank, which is far too robust. And the reason it's too robust is it clouds the volume of time you'll spend in the light and or source and or your heart center. And so PTSD is an incredible tool for the geneticists who invented us, because we will not forget. And we can now reimplement ourselves in the exact same timelines over and over and over again. So unfortunately and fortunately, I know why that is. And like it or not, this is what an alien war looks like. They don't show up and sneak up on you while you're a human. They create a human so that they can control you as society develops and so forth, and then manipulate you. And now they're at the point of no return because you're getting so much light into you. And that is my definition for ascension. You're now learning that you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want, through your heart. Hope that answers your question.
Well, it does answer the question. I think that the process, however, to get from A to Z can still be very challenging, especially when you're in 3D.
Yes. And so I want to give you a couple examples as we started the song. Is show me something I can use day in and day out. And I'll give you several throughout the show today. But the primary opportunity we have to start with is when you see an experience and it creates an emotion, notice that it is derived from observing the experience which the brain initiates. So, as an example, Jane, I send you a letter calling you names. You read the letter and you say, I am not that name. I'm going to send you a letter, Mr. Q, saying you're this name. Okay. So, microscopic observation of Jane's upset because Q sent a nasty gram to her, and that emotion now is recorded and identified as my identity as Q and Jane's relationship with me. Q sucks, called me names, I'm going to call him names. That is exactly what the bad guys want you to do. Okay, so now take that into every experience you have today and observe how the brain records the experience, and then you either adopt it, live it, participate with it, or you remove it. You don't participate with it, you ignore it, it disappears. Well, Epigenetically, you still got it. Okay. You don't have a choice. You experienced it. Some portion of you has recorded that. Mm-hmm. Your skin, your eyes, your hair, it doesn't really matter. And so the normal way we perceive the universe and or participate in the universe doesn't work like that at all. This human is very unique and very good at recording absolutely everything. But source, light, only knows one direction, only knows what, does not care. So as a overview, what if you could remember a billion lifetimes?
Okay.
What would you look like then? You'd be batshit crazy, wouldn't you? And it's not, so again, you start before you come into this physical body with no end of knowledge whatsoever. There's not one thing you don't know. The only thing that's missing, forgive me for being redundant, is the experience of the knowledge you have. So then you come into individuality and you're in a vessel now with all the knowledge in the universe, except you've never known what it's like to be this version of a human. And this version of human is what I'm saying, records everything, experiences everything in a supple way in which we're observing as emotions. Now, the emotions that we perceive, participate with, and observe through the brain are completely different than the emotions that are authentic in the heart. So you can actually look at yourself and check my words that an emotion from me calling Jane a name is completely different than I cannot wait to ride my bike down the hill because I'm excited about my brand new bike. Those two emotions have unbelievable separation because one is about self-creation, self-creativity, and the other is reacting to a situation. So you're going to find that all proactive emotions are your true self in relationship to love, passion, purpose, excitement, etc. That is what you are. That's how the Merkaba works. That's how your spirit works. That's how the light works. It only creates. So anything about doubt, fear, guilt, that is not an emotion of spirit. They're not even close. This is the battle of the minds. Planet Earth and this version of humans is the battle of the minds and the courting. So everyone here is unbelievably telepathic, unbelievable transmitters and receivers. That's what the brain's for, is recording, transmitting, and receiving. Nothing more and nothing less. And you'll decide how much you do of that each and every day. Or you'll decide to live the expression of your desires. I hope that answers your question. And that is exactly how you heal. You quit using the brain as your primary decision-making. As long-winded as I am about this subject over and over again, it's super simple. All you do is have faith in your excitement, and that's the real us before we got into these bodies. So I hope that helps.
All right, let's talk a little bit about that a little bit more in detail so I understand it. So you send me a letter saying that I suck, and then I retaliate and sending you another one. It says, well, you're a bad guy and you shouldn't be saying that to me because I'm a good person, right? Okay, mm-hmm. So the process of how I react to that incident or that event, will really so I could just intellectually understand that. And in my heart, I feel, or the body feels that, hey, you've been attacked, right? And so the body, we always have this fight or flight, way of adrenaline moving so that we know, oh, it's time to fight. So I'm going to fight for who I really am and defend myself, right? So I could do that. But so part of that is also what's happening in the body in terms of the cortisol levels, etc. And so that's why I think that's why the difficulty comes into play, because we have always been, and we, as humans in this version, we know that we always react, and we react, suddenly if we need to bring us back to what we call homeostasis, which it really isn't. See, so we're kind of tricking ourselves in the process. Well, I'm going to make this an even game, and I'm going to send you a letter that's going to be twice as bad, right? So that you really get to feel the pain that I'm feeling.
Yes, I agree.
And that's not right either.
Yeah. You can actually look at the animal world, look at forgive the correlation, but you look at an iguana or mini lizards who change color because of their environment. You look at yourself. I was steaming mad. I was going to rip my hair out. We've all been there. That's not really you. And that's what I'm getting at. And it directly relates to all the PTSD folks. I'm making a microcosm of PTSD with the letter calling you names, but the mechanics work exactly the same.
Okay. So, let's just go back to how the body kind of reacts versus on a spiritual level. And to understand that we are limitless light beings. We have always been, always will be, and who we are in this body. And most of us are wanting to get out of this body as soon as possible. But anyway, that's another story. So, so just going back to that case. So if you were me then, and it was vice versa, and being in this form, this human body, what is the best technique, or what is the best method for me to try to hold back and, hey, stop it. Don't retaliate. Don't get back at the cue. You're going to make yourself, feel worse, or no, maybe you'll feel better. So that's the two things in terms of the outcome. So I'll feel better if I tell you, hey, don't do that to me. That's not right. And I don't want to talk to you anymore. Does that help at all? And it's part of the ignoring process or whatever, but that still doesn't really bring you back to your light.
Yes, outstanding question. And what I would like us to do is to narrow it down in specifics that it's easier to digest. And so where I'm at so far in what I'm calling the linguistical nightmare of the English language is find a compartment that it feels right to you in relationship to choice. So absolutely now is all that really exists. Everything we've talked about is gone. And that is the correlation between PTSD and most of us, is that we feel something's happened to us. Okay? Those are very crucial words. We feel that something's happened to us, and then we sustain it. Yet our circumstances that we've experienced really are gone. They're all gone. That's what's so bizarre about living here. Knowing what it's like to live somewhere else and be on other planets and be other beings. You couldn't have told me this tale and had me believe it until I experienced it. We hang on to everything in relationship to the mind's perception of what we've experienced. So if we can get all PTS folks to practice and exercise about what our relationship is to existence and time. There's no such thing as time, and there's no such thing as space. And yes, we've been duped, and we've been duped good, but we can get through this. There's no such thing as space. You're quantifying your reality each and every second you breathe. Nothing in front of you exists. That's how powerful you are until you actually do it and open your eyes. Create. That's how powerful you are. So my suggestion, at least initially, is you start from ground zero in your relationship with time and recognize that everything you've experienced is already gone. So the only thing that can sustain that experience is your memory and your brain. So the healing component that I guarantee works over the years, anybody in military, anybody in the medical industry, any situation, nothing exists except right now. Now, the question might be, how come I can't stop thinking about that experience?
Right.
How come I can't get rid of it? Now, that's the real question, because you keep sustaining it. You keep bringing it to the forefront. It's so horrific. I have to talk about it. I have to think about it. I'm telling you right now, the circumstances you've experienced don't matter, because you have a choice in your state of being. Whether I call you a name, Jane, in a letter or not, you still have a delay between reacting to the situation or participating in the situation. And this is what the aliens love you for, because most people get angry and go start another timeline that they can jump on.
Mm-hmm.
That is the short version. I hope that answered your question.
I know.
Q.
Oh,
Yep.
hello, Billy.
No, Zora.
Oh, hello, Zora.
Thank you, Zora. Thank you, Zora.
Surprise.
Indeed. Understand, when it comes to post-traumatic stress, what it all boils down to is reliving your past. So what you do is you transmit the you call it the feeling, or what you term the out from there, and it's called love. What you do is you transmit your loving vibration into the equation, and then you have your answer. Love, the true love, meaning of love, I am not speaking of lust, I'm speaking of love, of self, love of the world, love of your fellow man. By transmitting that transmission of love, this is what the aliens hate, because they can't get through it. They can't attack you because you are retaliating with love. And there is no defense against love.
Okay, can I ask a question for both of you?
Go ahead.
Okay, so let's just say that I got into an accident, right? And so the police come, write it all up, and they said, and they're trying to evaluate, who did what, so that they can come up with, well, you're in the wrong, or you're in the wrong, et cetera, et cetera. And let's just say you feel, or that you're innocent. But now, from all of the information so far, it says, well, you were in the wrong, and so therefore, you got a ticket for $1,000 or whatever, and all of fixing up the car, et cetera, damages. So I could, all right, so I'll go ahead and send them love, but that does not clear it. That doesn't fix it. Not in this world, does it? And I could be cool, calm, and collected as I do that, because there is still a fine line in terms of justice that still plays really hard here on this plane.
On the third density.
Correct. Yes, Q.
So I'll disagree with your attempt to bring more weight to a certain situation over another in that respect. And I agree with Zora in my analogy. We can break apart specific emotions, at least I don't call them emotions per se, but in this body, this is how we recognize them. Love is a perfect example that comes from source. And the more you press with your light in your relationship to day in and day out choices, love if you like, compassion, etc., those are natural, inspirational, executable tasks, things you can actually observe day in and day out that actually make a difference in your relationships and the outcomes of your universe. So that's what I wanted to do my best to explain is those emotions that we recognize that are still incomplete compared to source, but that's how we recognize them through the physical body. Love, passion, excitement. Those are natural for us. That's all I'm getting at.
Yes. Okay. I get it. Okay. I think we all get it. Thank you, Zora, for your input, your feedback. Thank you.
Indeed.
All right. Very good. All right. So, so now that we're talking about that, and I know that we're talking about, PTSD as the main topic. So let's just kind of go from there a little bit more. So we have that understanding of moving, our heart minds and not to stay in this plane in regards to how we're reacting, but really moving to a higher state of understanding or frequency or vibration in terms of all of the different things that we can do coming from that point of view versus from the 3D point of view. So let's talk a little bit about, if you will, okay, so we talked a little bit about the secret soldiers. Now, what about the space programs? Can we talk a little bit about that? I mean, we're still talking about secret soldiers that are in those programs that are affected by PTSD, or did we want to just to talk about the space program just in general? Or
well, I would like to put some more clarity to it. It does inspire me to talk about it, and we're getting quite a few of the ladies and gentlemen come through on the calls over the years, and I'm prepared to speak to it if that's what you'd like to do, Jane. So it should be refreshing to know that some of the disclosures happened for years now, right before your very eyes, and at the same time hidden in a way that allows you to make decisions. This very conversation is disclosure. It's my full intention. It is what I do here, is to get you a couple more pieces of the puzzle. One group that did a pretty good job of giving you a lot of information is the United States Navy. And over the years, they disclosed a lot of information to you indirectly that looked like it was coming from third party or Joe Blow's disclosure webcast, whatever. One of the individuals that can help bridge, if they're still up, I don't know if they're still up anymore, but one of the individuals that was in Project Looking Glass, or at least had visibility to it, in the modern days, in the 90s, was, I believe he went on a cover name of Bill Wood. I think you could probably still find maybe some of that dialogue on Project Camelot or other places. But the Navy did give pretty good information about Project Looking Glass. And the reason they did that is because it's obsolete now. You can't, it doesn't work anymore, because we've outgrown the limitations of timelines in relationship to the construct of time continuum that was molded for us in our epigenetic control system. So it's very, very difficult to explain in a short period of time. But essentially, you had a tool to map reoccurring events and then do predictive analysis with very psychic people, for lack of a better term, very aware people in the programs, to predict the outcome of certain events. Well, that disappeared about 2012, obviously, because the ascension cycle by the bad guys, they missed the mark. And that's, of course, when a lot of cloning happened. But in any event, to stay on topic, that is a microcosm of the programs I came out of and many others in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And of course, Billie Zoria is a component of that, and you've heard her stories, I'm sure. In any event, the secret space program, that's not the term I would call it, but because it's not a secret anymore now, is it? And that's
Right.
on purpose. And that's on purpose. And when we were all groomed, we had one thing in common, and that is we did not have the hindrances of the brain. And so we could create the multiverse in real time. And most of that technology on the planet, a strong portion of it on the Western world came out of Area 51 with many vessels that were given to this region, not crashed, given to somewhat even the playing field. And it's a very long story, but essentially there was shares taken out of some vessels where you could do multidimensional travel if you could use your light as the primary decision-making process to travel. So as an example, you've probably heard me say, Billie and I were befriended primarily because I couldn't find anybody to help drive a vessel because they used their head. They're very smart, they're very intelligent, they understood how consciousness works, spirit, but they couldn't use it as a primary. So Billie, as an example, was recruited because I said, I'm not going to work with anybody unless they can be of 100% consciousness, as an example. And then, of course, that's went off like bonfire. You have to have, can't get people getting A's on the test. You got to get people that are flunking all the tests because they're daydreaming out there and they want to fly. And so, in any event, the Secret Space Program and the Super Soldier Program have one thing in common, and that is these folks, when they get time regressed and progressed, they don't believe in any limitations of space and time, and that's what's now part of the PTSD that I'm experiencing is they are participating in your reality and know it's all hogwash.
Mm.
Hope that helps.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting. So they've been. I mean, they're really very. I mean, they're conscious. I mean, they're fully conscious then, and that's why for them, it's a no thing basically.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example of the PTSD. This is why it's so. I'm so passionate about it. Is this is what you're seeing on the Q post that we're giving you stepping stones to start verifying for yourself. When you go outside today, the super space soldiers, the secret warriors, they know there's nothing behind that door. They know all day long that the power that you have is so immense you can't describe it. And it's quantifiably instantaneous. So when you make a universe, it looks like this. You open your eyes. This is what God can do. That's what you are doing in individuality. You're all making universes. So now we're going to go back to the super space soldier, secret space soldier, whatever word you like there. They know it. They know that they're living with you and you don't know you're actually creating everything around you in a bubble of your own.
Mm-hmm.
Now try and heal that one, Jane.
Well, I think, I don't know, for myself, I think that's kind of new information for me regarding the space soldiers.
So a universe, so now we can start looking at free will universes and why we would attack free will beings, so to speak. This is really a free will universe, and you can't do those words justice enough. Free will means endless potential of your creativity. You can create a purple universe right now if you want. This is how free will this universe is. You can make a universe within a universe. That's how incredibly free the universe is. There is no boundaries. And that's why duality does so well here. That's why the dark do so well here, because we reinforce that the dark is in our reality. And we didn't create the dark, but we help fuel it because we believe, chasing information, instead of knowing that we could have any reality we want. Is that a good starting point?
I think I'm already lost. So,
okay. So here, I'll put it in a microcosm. And regarding abductions and our reality, and this really happened yesterday. Okay, very, very dear friend and her husband, they got in a fight in the car, and they yelled at each other until their heads popped off. And they used to love each other. They used to care about each other. All right, so here's what's going on with the bad guys. That emotional draw that the yelling came from was not them. Has nothing to do with them. But they jumped on an emotional abduction of the past or the current situation. Doesn't really matter. That is a person that is observing another person abusing themselves, internal to themselves. So those are all abductions. For me, if your emotions come from your head, because that's not what source does. That's not what light does. To Zora's point, you are a loving expression of love continuously, unless you choose to be in the brain. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So this is how universe creators are stifled. In this case, this version of humans is designed to overthink, over-remember, and, by the way, transmit and receive, cord each other with emotions that are negative and or not yourself. That's all that's going on here. Is source is doing its best to find source. We're all getting our light back. We're all getting our light back and our knowledge back. And in the meantime, we're asking ourselves, who is touching me? Mm-hmm. I hope that's a good start.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, go ahead, Zora.
Beloved Q, the post-traumatic stress issue, you're speaking of the super soldier and the space program and things of this nature. But for the people in this reality, the post-traumatic stress is stemming from Vietnam and their experience over there.
Well, that's for the veterans, Zora.
For the veterans, yes.
Right.
And so a lot of the people that are listening to this call that are experiencing post-traumatic stress, it's being stemmed from their tour in Vietnam. So that is what you should be speaking of presently, about that, how to address that type of post-traumatic stress for the veterans that have come here. And you see them in the street, and they're talking to nothing. They're in a wheelchair or somewhere, and they're just talking to an invisible being, and they are not there because of the post-traumatic stress that they experienced in Vietnam. So this is another part of the post-traumatic stress issue that Q should address.
All right, thank you, Zora.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with our relationship to PTSD and Vietnam. That one's a strong one, obviously. The volume of individuals, certainly the duration of time. Of course, that's when a lot of these These programs are getting very prevalent in our military. The Vietnam vet is very important to me because you could infuse, like all wars, you can infuse society with PTSD. So we talk about the soldier, very important, but the soldier comes home and has a wife and kids. Well, epigenetically, guess who gets daddy's shell shock? Well, the kid does. And so PTSD is very important for the individuals that pretend to manage the planet's development, because now you have thousands of years of PTSD recorded, epigenetically recorded in the human genome. And now at the end of the 2,000 years, you got a manipulation device. You got us all dancing at the end of the ascension cycle once again, and it creates confusion and discord from the light. Vietnam is probably one of the most prevalent, World War II arguably, but ultimately it's to get us conditioned to accept PTSD as the norm, and or keep us away from the light is where I would initiate this conversation. It's designed to keep us away from decisions that are based on love, compassion, and so forth, because we continuously hanging on to what happened to us in Vietnam, etc. Now, not to say that there's not nerve damage and disconnection, discord, as I'm sure you've seen, Jane, as a trauma nurse, but we're still going to have to do a full circle that you are source and everything else is after source. So your brain is only working because there is a spirit in you. Everything after the spirit comes into physicality is after the spirit comes into physicality, is where I'd like us to always originate. Yes, it's horrific what we did to our people in Vietnam. Yes, it's even more horrific when you realize that the war has nothing to do with what you were told. But those are still things in the past that are gone. They're gone. They're all gone. And yes, we can go down the highway and see the next Vietnam memorial every flipping 5 miles, but it's still gone. And the more we keep sustaining the past, the more we're going to repeat history, is where I'd like us to start.
Well, how about this, Q? And I'm in agreement. I think one of the key questions then is, for those of us who have been, who have a better understanding, I think, from a spiritual point of view. Thank you to you and others, and Zora too, and Billie. But let's talk about the people that are affected by PTSD and children as well, through abuse and trauma, etc. So, and they're not awakened; they're still asleep. So we're talking about healing processes, and of course, you've already given us beautiful commands. You've also taught us, how this has come about, and also how to be able to get out of it, through our own light, understanding of light, of who we really are, and then that we are really love. And so to get on that higher level of frequency and consciousness, so we can get that. A lot of us can, or at least understand and begin. And then the process is to really begin to really experience that through all of the turbulences and all of the challenges that you have in front of you. And how do you turn that all around so that you are coming from a higher level, a higher vibration frequency, to be able to understand and just let go. So, but for the ones that are asleep, at this point, how can we help to heal them?
Okay, so when you ask that question, is this is someone who's sick, who's going through PTSD, who doesn't understand that they're a light body in a physical body? Is that
correct? Yes, asleep, very asleep, right?
I just drink a lot of whiskey.
Right, exactly. Then you forget about it. Correct.
Okay. So again, I believe the number one starting point for healing PTSD is to really examine how we think. Where does thought come from? This is my first question with everyone I work with. Can you stop thinking? And if you can't stop thinking, why is that? All right, so you can't stop thinking. I can't stop remembering. I got hurt. I really, really can't forget it. I'm just going to live my life with all these memories. That's that. Okay, so memory is thought, is it not? And where does it come from? Okay, so this is my opinion, where you have to start all of our healing, regardless of the symptoms. Again, these are symptoms, and we cannot focus on symptoms. We have to focus on root cause analysis, and that is we're a spirit. So if everything is after spirit, then that means the only reason we're sick and or sustaining injury is because we keep sustaining and or we are not let's say recalibrating and reconfiguring to our natural instant healing capability, which is the light, which is the source. So I like to use the analogy of you cut your finger, you put a Band-Aid on it, 2 days later it's healed, you can't even see the cut. Well, everything in the universe is that way if there's light in it. And so that's my question for everybody. If my body can heal instantly from being cut, then that means everything else can heal instantly too. And so I keep coming back to PTSD and evaluating and observing it, and you'll see that we're the ones self-sustaining doubt and fear of the healing, and or self-sustaining the memory. So to answer your question, you're still going to have to get back there eventually. Yes, I had a trauma. Yes, I remember it, but you don't have to. That's my suggestion.
Okay, so
move beyond it.
Right. Well, I guess I'm just trying to put myself, if I've got a group of people that have undergone PTSD, and I've got some veterans in front of me as we're talking, and helping them to release the intense memories that they have, that we don't have to talk about it. So let's go ahead and start talking about how to be able to heal, right? So, well, I guess it's really basically for them to help them not focus on what they're thinking all the time because it's overanalysis, et cetera, and then get to a point where they can already understand that if they can heal their finger, they can heal they can stop thinking and just focus on what they want to create, basically. I mean, round circle, real quick. So, I was very hard on myself on this subject for a couple different reasons. So first of all, I couldn't tell anybody my story because you're crazy. Sure, you're a light being, number one. Sure you are. Okay, so that one's actually the easiest one, it turns out. They can't believe that the duping could be so incredible that we're out in the Beyond-O hyperspace fighting aliens that are trying to take over other planets, let alone this one. Okay, so all right, I might be able to get that one. I've seen the movie. Well, what I couldn't get past with me was, if I told you what I've seen and experienced in this body, most people would go crazy. So I realized I had seen the most horrific things, the most brutal things that could possibly be done to a race of beings. And obviously I can't talk about the masses of destruction of humanity I've seen. So how is it that I'm able to get through it, get over it, so to speak? And I realized mechanically what it looks like if there is such a thing, and that is it doesn't exist anymore.
Yes, I know I lived it, but I can't do anything other than know that I'm just right now. That's all there is, right now. And so
Correct.
that's my suggestion for all of us. All of us, again, as we started this conversation, have some form of PTSD if we cannot start living in the now. As redundant and as tiring as those words are, you can actually do it right now by just looking at inspiration as your next choice. Love is your next choice. Doesn't matter what direction you go, as long as it starts from the heart. And that's how I examined myself in this version of humans, is why do I only want to do things that I'm excited about and nothing else matters? And I realized that is the cup of tea that solves the problem of PTSD.
How about a command for, so let's just say I'm still back with my group, and then I get to a point where, we're going to go through, learning how to focus just now on the present and the near future, that things are going to be absolutely perfect for us if we choose our excitement, et cetera, et cetera. So what about a good command that one can teach someone, whether they're a child or whether they're an adult, for this? Because children also are experiencing it.
Yes, no doubt about it.
Right.
And I really encourage everybody to make these your own words, make them verbal. But here is a suggestion. Again, when we're talking to spirit, source, you really are just talking to all of us, yourself. Mm-hmm. We all come from source. And you're never going to get away from it. You all come from source. You're all God. Okay. And experiencing what it's like out in wherever you just choose. And so here is one suggestion that is sustainable. I command our spirits to hold us firmly all day long. Now, what you can do is you can expand that. I command prime creation to hold us forever in perfect peace. I command prime creation to hold us in perfect peace forever. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now. Wow. That was Beautiful. A good one. That was really goodness. That was very well received. And that is one of the gifts I do have, is I can see the volume of light we're using here from individual and a collective. And so that was a great example that everybody was ready to receive that. Thank you, everyone who's listening.
Would you repeat that one, please?
Yeah, repeat that again for people, if you will, Zora. Q.
I command prime creation to hold us in perfect peace forever. I command prime creation to hold us in perfect peace forever. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now.
Okay.
And so most of us will experience the air getting a little heavier, and because you got lighter. And so the light comes into you, and it shows you the delta between where you're at, third dimension, if you like, fourth dimension. Depends on where you're at in your self-realization. But certainly most people would see that the sparkles in their room, or just a little tweaking of the density compared to where they were before the command. So I hope that helps.
A lot. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Q. All right. How shall we proceed, Q? That was so great. That was so great.
How should we proceed? Yeah.
Well, you can also, if you wish, you can also bring in other periods of the war with America and Afghanistan and Iraq, besides Vietnam.
But
it's all combined.
Well, they're all really
Yeah.
combined. Yeah.
Yeah, they sure are. Yeah, let's talk about the Middle East since we do have so many vet friends. My dear friend Max Steele did a lot of time over there, and some of the missions I was on. But certainly in the early '90s to 2000, you would if you could count the ammunition that went out the door when we perceived the Iraq war being over, you'd be shocked that there was a lot more fighting going on after the war than there was during the war. And so you're now starting to see some of the information coming out. These are all spiritual wars, and you've been fighting over resources, money, etc. But at the end of the day, you had a pretty good group of people who really wanted to get a lot of information out. And so it's going to be really hard for people to believe that Saddam Hussein was a good person. And so you had Iraq, you had Iran, and not to say that they did everything right. Don't get me wrong there, but ultimately Syria, Libya, many of those countries in there really working hard to hold on to the natural histories that they had. So notice America goes to Iraq and they take out museums. Well, they had a lot of history there. And they understood the mechanics of the human body and spirituality, and they also understood black magic and how the U.S. dollar is exclusively for controlling the world with black magicians. And certainly the CIA has had a good slew of black magicians, FBI, et cetera, et cetera. Not to say they aren't in silos and everybody in there is bad. It's just there's so many silos of the dark in all of these organizations, it was hard to figure out who's who. Well, the Middle Eastern wars, they gave up. They said, we're going to do our own thing. And they're going to tell the truth about aliens, and they're going to tell the truth about the technology that's been suppressed on the planet. And that's what you get. When you do that, you get blown up. You get destroyed. The real crux of the story for the Middle Eastern wars going on even today is hidden with religion, but it's actually about the mechanics of what you are, where you are, and how you are. And so they really we're tuckered out. They really want you to know that you're a light being growing out of physicality. And you're in the ascension cycle. They really wanted to promote ascension and get everyone on board and share resources. So as an example, you'll notice there's some countries in the Middle East and everyone has a mansion. but they have no one to work at the mall. Well, because all the resources of the country were given to the people. So imagine in America if all the revenue and resources in America went back to the people. Imagine what America would be like with a bunch of multimillionaires. No one would go to work. No one would go to work. Right? So we'd all get to a point where we'd say, okay, someone's got to make some shoes because I need a new pair of shoes. And of course, we'd end up that way eventually, but we'd first be real lazy and fat. Well, the Middle East recognized that. There's a lot of very, very very aware people there. He said, well, I can't quit working because we're all in this together. Boy, I bet we're tired of that statement. So, so I love farming. I'm going to be a farmer. I love making shoes. I'm going to make shoes, etc. So your purpose doesn't leave you. And that's what I give credit to a lot of the legacy cultures here and the Middle East is they know that their purpose isn't going to leave them. And they know they're going to need resources, and that's why they live simpler, because they know that they're a spirit and not a physical being. I hope that was a good segue.
No, that was beautiful. So thank you, Azora, for bringing that up. Since we have a little bit of time left, perhaps we could, if you don't mind. So when we're talking about the wars, we're talking about the present situation in which we're in. So again, and this may sound redundant, but if you will, just kind of move us in the next foreseeable year, since we're talking about New Earth in 2023, what what events do you kind of foresee for all of us in regards to wars, in regards to resources, etc.?
You're always doing your best to put me in a corner, aren't you?
No.
You're going to try and get me to cough something up, aren't you? Sometimes you're successful too. I like that. Yeah. So a lot of us were tasked with participating in what you probably call time travel, and so we have seen a lot, and that's what a lot of us were used for, is to control the outcome of situations and timelines that couldn't be seen in tools like Project Looking Glass. That's not actually the name of the real tool. I'm only calling it Project Looking Glass, so you'll recognize what direction that technology's come from. And anyway, in addition to that, I have all of my memories and experiences of traveling outside of this reality too. So if you were to summate what I really am as my primary directive and passion internally, is I'm a time traveler. And that's not what we call it, but so certainly I've been up to 2150, and we do it that way so we get an understanding of where the ascension cycle shoulder points are. So as an example, in this ascension cycle, we're going to do a really strong job at carrying over to the next time period so that you don't lose as much memory. In addition, the individuals that are tasked to make a much more robust genetic mammalian do their job. So there's a lot of contention in the Galactic Federation about why did you let this type of human get so far down the road, as an example. So in any event, the microcosm of time you have done your best to corner me in, I'll dodge. This is what I will tell you, though.
Right.
I don't. All time for me is a construct by aliens. There's no such thing as time, calendars, all of it.
Correct.
And so when you see people praying for an outcome based on a time and so forth, that can easily be hijacked, and that's one of the reasons I don't do it. But if you look at our inspiration as a collective, you can actually see how your world is developing. And if you look at 100-year increments, it gets a little easier to not really sort the information in any type of technology or event, but look at us as an entire planet and as a collective in our inspiration, and look how your society is changing very quickly. Whether you're in America or China, it doesn't really matter. You're seeing, number one, everyone's tired of an imbalance in your monetary system. So we have a guy making Nikes in Vietnam, and we have a guy buying Nikes in America. Look how different their life is. So we got one guy making $10 a month, and then we got another guy spending $150 for the shoes that the guy made $10. Okay, so notice that as a collective, not even the guy buying the $100 shoes thinks that's fair. We're tired. We're all collectively tired of the misrepresentation of the monetary system. So, if you go to Australia now, you get 35 cents more for your dollar. Why is that fair? Okay. So, et cetera, your food supply, your medical industry, we're all starting to smell the coffee. This doesn't feel right. So we quit doing it. And so now take a subset. So if you want to look at wars, you can see that we haven't had any wars. Notice that we haven't had any wars. We have talk about wars, but there's no wars per se. Everyone's tired of source fighting with source. This is a very unique place. God is fighting with God. It's just absolutely bizarre. You're seeing crime go down in areas that used to be prevalent with crime, because a lot of those people are just tuckered out and say, I don't like crime anymore. If you look collectively, we're changing very, very quickly. So as an example, the end of the road of the monetary system is you will stop believing that you can own something, especially in your relationship with time. If you only live 5 minutes, why do you think you can actually own something? And I ask you, Jane, how can you own something that you're just borrowing?
Correct.
So we're all learning very quickly that every resource on this planet is all of ours.
Mm-hmm.
That is number one, what is changing right before your very eyes very quickly. Whether you use Nerf footballs to exchange means, silver, gold, I don't care if it's more pieces of paper with a pyramid, you are still going to recognize eventually that the means of exchange for your purpose is just that. Your purpose is your passion, and somebody wants your passion, i.e., I love putting roofs on houses. Somebody's going to need a roof. And no one can actually own the resources for the roofing material. You can't. It came from Earth. Did you buy the planet? Well, that's what these bad guys, this is why they're disappearing. They know the gig's up. Hope that helps.
Beloved Q. And
Hey, sir.
hello. You mentioned that you had gone up to what is called 2150. So would you give them a glimpse into the future of 2150 of the United States?
Very good.
Very good, sir.
So,
thank you.
Now I'm definitely getting set up now. What not all, but most of your borders are starting to dissipate. And you're starting to see that naturally because you don't prefer being interrogated when you go to Canada, as an example. Mm-hmm. When it's a landmass that's attached to your country, America, and so forth, Mexico. So apparently you're not free on planet Earth because you weren't born in America. And by the way, try getting into America if you're not American. So your recognition, your realization of that is starting to come into fruition now. And by the way, that's part of the help you're getting is the monetary system. Why do I need to tax something that was born on planet Earth, whether it's a human or an artifact? But you can assume that in 2150, you are not going to have any borders like you have now. So that's the biggest change. You are going to see that change right within the next 7 years. And it's already starting to materialize in front of you right now. Mm-hmm. So for me, that's the most exciting because when in cooperation with your natural technologies, you should be able to travel to any culture, any location on this planet, and that's that.
And will we be at that point bartering then? So we're just claiming, doing what our passion, what we love to do. And also that everyone's going to be fully enlightened by then. When are we all going to be fully enlightened, Q? And I know I understand that question. I take it back, actually, because it's really individual. But I think I'm looking at it in terms of collectively. I mean, because everything that we're talking about I'm sorry. Go ahead, Q. I apologize.
So you can nail me, but I can't nail you. Okay, fine. I'm good with that. Yeah. So okay. I love it. It's a beautiful question.
I will give you your answer.
No, Zora.
Wait a moment. Q, let them know about 2030.
Whatever.
Yes.
No, hold on a second. Billie, I'm sorry, Q and Zora. We were at 2050. I mean, was that all the information you wanted to tell us about 2050 before we move into a different time or year from this point of view?
Yeah. Again, I'm going to go ahead, Zora.
2050, you will be well into fifth dimension.
Oh.
Yeah. So I again am speaking to the intrinsics. Certainly, when you observe the natural progression of growing your light into this version or similar version of humans, what you're able to do now is adapt to the environment along with your environment. So watch your planet. It's giving you a lot of clues on how it's growing the volume of light. Well, you have to keep up with it just like it has to keep up with you, so to speak. And one of those major delineation that's been taken from us is our natural ability to, let's say, go to all the frequencies at will and or the fifth dimension. So as a standard, we hang out in the third dimension in this version of humans. It's a very rigid statement. It's not exclusive to us. But we're a multidimensional being. Now, what Zora said, we're going to be able to sustain being in the higher dimensions continuously. So right now, you're bouncing back and forth. In 2150, you will be able to sustain it and see the higher frequencies as well. As an example, within the seventh densities frequencies, you don't eat, you don't drink, you don't sleep. Your versatility is impossible to explain. The vastness of all that is recognized, even in the fifth dimension. All that is and all that ever will be, and that's what creates massive amounts of peace. And that's why the higher dimensional beings don't have wars, is because they don't have any lies and they don't have deception and they don't have knowledge hidden from them. They certainly don't have technology hidden from them, because they realize they're the most technologically advanced of anything in the multiverse. It is us. Hope that helps.
Okay, so when we're talking now that you brought back 2050, I have one last question regarding that. And you mentioned the seventh density. Is that where people are going to be at? Is that seventh density?
I did not say that. I will say that you will have many more options. So as we move in and out of our body now, you do have the choices to be at any dimension. Sustaining it in the body is what I'm referring to.
Right. Exactly. We get that. Okay. All right. So Zora had mentioned again, I think you've already mentioned 2030 before. So if you will, just go ahead and give us a quick review again for 2030. I'm still looking at 2023, actually, or 2024, but we could go to 2030. I mean, that's around the corner anyway.
Yeah. So I really give you tidbits of let's say, encouragement that it's up to us, period. And timeline for our reality. I refuse to do it. I can.
Okay.
No one can predict the future.
Right.
Have I been to the future and seen it? I have, knowing full well that I could manipulate the future now. And I will err on the side of conservativity. But what you can hang your hat on is you has changed very quickly.
Hey, Q, I think we just lost you completely on that last sentence.
You lost me?
Yes.
Now am I back?
Kind of in the. It sounds like you're in a tunnel.
How about
now? Yes. Try that again.
How about now?
Oh, that's perfect.
Okay. So one thing you can hang your hat on, as I said, is you are changing in these bodies. Now, that's one thing you can definitely touch. I know I'm different than I was 10 years ago.
Okay.
That's all you need to know. I know that if I make decisions that are based on spirit instead of the brain, everything's going to show up right on time. That's what I'm promoting.
Mm-hmm.
Q.
Boy, Zora.
Indeed. Q. Describe the journey between you and Zorea from Area 51 into 2030, and why you were not able to remain there for very long.
Why Q wasn't able to remain there for very long?
No, the ship that Q and Zorea were in.
Oh, I don't know about that part. But I do remember that Q had mentioned this in the past, but I don't remember Q saying anything about that he couldn't stay there very long. Q?
Well,
Okay, Q, this is for Q then. No, hold on.
Should I bring it forth, or should you wish to do it?
No, Q is going to do that, Zora. Please.
All right.
Okay. It might be a little more fun to talk about frequency travel in its entirety. I know we don't have a whole lot of time here, but one of the reasons not all of us could get on a vessel. So if we use Zora as an example, Zora has a tremendous amount of light in her and can utilize it. So whereas a general in the military or any of the flyboys, I would attempt to get them to get in the vessel, and we couldn't go anywhere because they had too much mind energy. So you need to have a marriage not only with the vessel, because it's a living being, but you have to be in perfect peace energy to be able to go anywhere, because you're traveling in frequencies, not in locations. So the vessel that we were in had limitations. In the example of Billie, that vessel had a dimensional limitation based on its desire. Okay. So got to remember, the vessel is alive, and not only does it have safety mechanisms built into it, they're built into it in just like a person. So most people, so the military has found several of these vessels. Some were given to them, some were found. Some of these vessels do not like the individuals that are working on them, and they won't behave. So remember that these vessels are alive, and that's why they're so efficient. And the vessel, in Zorea's point, this vessel did not want to go over the cusp of the ascension cycle because it wanted to be on this side of it, so to speak. And that's what its mandate was. Its internal mandate, I should say. Did you get a copy?
Well, I guess, so you had to leave that quickly? You?
No. It's not about leaving. It's about the vessel's intentions are just as important as ours.
Oh, I see.
The vessel doesn't want to go past 2030. It's not going to. It just,
okay.
It can, it just doesn't want to.
Gotcha.
It wants to create within the boundaries of the ascension. And this should also give you a clue at where you're at in the ascension cycle.
Okay. So clarify that when you talk about the ascension cycle. So it's a process, obviously, and most of us kind of feel that it's going to be in this existence that we are presently in, even whether or not we're in let's say outside of the med beds. So like in this existence, right? So is that ascension process going to are we going to achieve that this at that time within the next few years, whether it's by 2030 or not? I mean, or is that going to move forward into, 2040 or 2050? I guess I'm not real clear about that ascension process and when it kind of says, okay, we're all done and everybody is now in the middle of the universe and everybody is happy.
Okay, so you got to be careful with me because my definition for ascension is a little broader. Ascension for me is the ability to do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be an Earth human, as an example. I'm going to go be something else. I want to go back to my home planet. I want to go back to the light. So that's my definition of ascension. Is there events in your universe that you might observe, say, recalibration of your sun as an example? Sure. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, as it pertains to us as individuals in singularity, it's up to us what we want to do is my definition of ascension. So the time and the way we measure time and its relationship is not, it doesn't have much measurement or bearing to me because mm-hmm. I feel we can all go through the ascension cycle right now mm-hmm. if we would start utilizing our light as our primary decision-making process. Does that help?
Well, it does, but you also know that not all of us are quite there. We still have a little ways to go. So I guess I'm asking you to just kind of, well, if you understand each one of us and us, all of us as a collective, that you would kind of know, well, okay, so this is how far they gotten, in the past, few events, et cetera. And now we're back, now we're into 2025. And I don't know, I think they're still feeling like, they're going to be behind on their progression towards ascension. So I guess that's my question,
Okay, very good. So there are many tools that the universe, we help create with us on top of it all. So as we come around a universe, that would be all of us, when we start squeezing in more light here, that is also a very large component of it, but it's still us. Mm-hmm. It's still the light, finding the light, recalibrating, reconfiguring back to source, and then giving us a little help, so to speak. It's very natural for us to do that. But it's still our choice to stay in singularity, collectiveness, or otherwise. And so that's all I'm getting at is the universe is supporting us. We are the universe. We are supporting our next steps, and we naturally have a recalibration and reconfiguration tool known as source or ascension. But what's normal for us is to be in a state of being able to do whatever you want, whenever you want. Mm-hmm. And that's why this term heaven has been snookered out of us, is we think we're going somewhere. Mm-hmm. We're already there. Mm-hmm. We just need more of our capabilities back. That's it.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. So I guess it's like the, I don't want to name things, but if I have a goal and let's say I want to become, become something, in the next 10 years, and I'm going to plan it and do the work I need to do to get there, right? So, I mean, that's what we've been doing here on planet Earth. All of us light workers that are awakened, we're already planning on getting there, but, of course, always the question in this time zone is that we're always asking when and how come, why not now? And even though there is the potential to be able to do that, it's still the collective, and the collective is not quite ready. So how much are we ready, or when are we? Or I don't want to say when, because again, we're talking about time. So how far are we from it? And I'm not talking about time, right?
Well, I would encourage you to recognize,
in terms of light,
I would encourage you to recognize that you cannot talk about absoluteness in this conversation. You can't say that not all of us are ready. It's impossible. You could say not all of us are aware of what we are.
Okay. That's true. Okay.
So when are we going to be aware of what we are? is the real question, isn't it?
Okay. Right. So we just,
and I would never put the onus of time on it, because every time we wake up, we get a chance to realize what we are, where we are, and how we are.
All right. Okay, Q. All right. I think
I see I win every time either way, don't
I? Well, you are Q. You are Source. So we love you always for that. And we only have a couple of minutes left. I do want to just say to people that for those of you who've already emailed me, texted me that you would like to have a one-to-one session with Q, we are going to be doing another one for next Friday. Monday won't work. And then the following week, which would be on the 16th and the 20th, we'll also have 2 more days of one-to-ones with Q. So those of you that have already sent me all of your requests, let me go ahead and kind of put that together so I know and Q knows exactly where we're at in regards to the following week. And as the other thing too is it's been really fab. Oh, Q, you've got, so I wanted to give it back to Q. I won't say your thank yous for you, but I know how much we have very, very much love and so appreciated your being here with us and doing all this incredible work or joy that you're doing with us, and so as well with Zora and Zorea. So let me go ahead and leave that for you to end our call for today's.
And I bid you farewell.
Thank you, Zora.
Thank you, Jane, so much for accommodating me and all the people who are listening to us today and in the future and whenever and forever. It's a complete cherished event every time we get to all collaborate, communicate. Please join me whenever you can. I can't wait to play and participate with you. Beautiful, beautiful day to you, Jane. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And the other thing I want to tell people is that we are going to be having a couple of special announcements of something for, that will include Q, and also in a different way, also Zora. So wait for the information. It'll be on our newsletters that'll be coming out. So much love to everyone. Thank you all for coming here. Don't forget to join in and become a member, because this is going to be going forward. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful year and going forth. Or now and going forth from here. All right, everybody, have a great weekend. We love you all, and thank you for being here. And Don, you are so fabulous. We love you. Thank you for everything that you are doing to help to support each and every one of us, and including all of the people that are with you. Thank you. Thank you, Don, and thank you, Zorea. All right, bye now, and we shall see you soon. Our